Hey, it's Joyce Conroy, host of The Block Party. Thank you so much for your support of Ernie's Corner. The Doors, post Jim Morrison, they were into a lot of different experimentation, different directions, especially in their Full Circle LP. Ernie, I know you have some interesting stories about that design. And are you naked?
Oh, Joyce, thank you so much again. And yes, I am. You know, in keeping with the theme of the record and the album cover that we created, everything is a la natural. You know, it's the full cycle of, you know, the evolution of an embryo to an embryo and everything in between. And that's the first reason. The second reason is the second guy. I always get this wrong. Second guy over here is I modeled for Joe Garnett when he was doing this piece. We had a few different age group models that came in, and I had a full beard and everything, so I became the model. Nobody knows that. So this is a second first for the Ernie's Corner and for your Saturday block party, because you know, it's never been told before. So there's always something new when you think about the, you know, you remember the stuff. But, you know, it was kind of an interesting assignment. I was reached out to by Ray Manzarek early in '72 because we had just started Pacific Pioneer. My partner and I, Tony, had left the company we were working for, and January 1 of 1972, we started Pacific Pioneer. And we had, you know, Captain Beyond, we had Alice Cooper, had the Rolling Stones tongue, had Jesus Christ Superstar, and we're going along, and all of a sudden we get a call from Ray Manzarek. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was a huge Doors fan, and, you know, just an amazing moment when he reached out to us and said he loved the stuff that we were doing. And, you know, would we be willing to work on an album for him? He had this idea that he wanted to share with us, and he thought that, you know, we'd be the perfect people to do it. So went over and met with him, and he told me about the meaning of Full Circle, and to them, and the music they were writing, and with Jim Morrison passing, and, you know, and all that stuff was very heavy on his mind. And so we went away, and I was, as you can see, I was a big zoetrope fan. I wanted to be an animator. The zoetropes were, even though they were very old, they were the basic foundation, the roots of what we know today as movies and video and all that stuff. It started with that 23 or 26 frame circle that spun around, and you look through the slots and you saw the animation. So because the theme was rejuvenating as a human being, it seemed to make all the sense in the world to do a zoetrope. So as you can see over here on this side there, that's when you open up the album, there's two panels like that. They both have that pattern and that folds up into a zoetrope. And then there's another space for a pedestal that it sits on that raises it up higher than the record player needle that you can see over there, where it's sitting on the record player. And the stock that we used on the album, and we did a lot of research before we suggested doing this, unlike the suggestion we had with the Rolling Stones sticky finger package, where I said, why don't you put a real zipper in there, because it was just a graphic one. And that ended up being a real catastrophe. They had to call back most of the initial release because the little nub on the zipper warped the records. So I wanted to make sure that this zoetrope didn't slow down the music. And so we tested different stocks, and we found it was perfect. We produced it. The consumer, and I always been a big fan of involving the fan to more than just taking a record out of a sleeve and putting it on the record player, and and while you're listening to music, you're reading the liner notes and looking at pictures. This was a way of adding visual importance to the concept of the record. So as you constructed that zoetrope and put it on your pedestal that sat down over the spindle on your record player, it turned around and you could look in the slots. The holes that you see in the top of the zoetrope there let light in so that you could see. And as you look through the slots as they went by, you saw the evolution of an embryo turning into a baby that's crawling, to a young boy that's walking, to a younger man, which was me, running, and then, you know, an older man falling over and going back into the embryo. And I got to tell you, I made a comp, And we actually showed it to Ray Manzarek. We went to his house and he put it on the record player, and he was absolutely blown away. He was blown away that we had taken what he considered a 2D, here's this album packet with pictures and stuff, to the level of involving the consumer at a whole different interactive ability to actually feel more part of the music. And Ray picked up on that right away. And I think I mentioned to you years later, I bumped into him. I guess it was a couple of years before he passed away. I bumped into him at an airport in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth. And he was just sitting there by himself reading a book. And I walked up to him and I said, Ray, you probably don't remember me. And he goes, Ernie, man, you guys were, and he just went on like Cheech Marin did when he saw me with Shep Gordon and said, that album cover you did for Big Bamboo sold an extra 100,000 copies because of the package. Ray felt the same way about this. And even though the album didn't do well at the time, it's actually coming back. It's celebrating, I think, a 50th anniversary or 55th or whatever it is. And that's when Ivor had just interviewed Robby Krieger, and he was a big fan of the album too, even though I never really met him. I dealt mainly with Ray Manzarek, who was the leader of the group right from the beginning. I never knew that. I always thought it was Jim Morrison, but anyway, that's full circle. If you guys get a chance to pick it up, I'm sure it's on eBay. Make sure it's got the panels in it for the Zoetrope. And oh yeah, one last thing. There's the logo we did for it, which was a Anubis strip, which was the full cycle of life. So anyway, thank you very much, Joyce, again for giving us the opportunity. And I want to suggest a song from the album, and Mosquito. And that's what we want to do. So thank you so much. I love you guys. And I'll see you next week on Ernie's Corner.
Love you too, Ernie. Well, as they say, long live naked radio.
Hey, man, it doesn't get any nakeder than this. All right. Thank you, Joyce.